Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, welcome to the live stream. My name's Matt Bailey, and you're tuned to 5 Flavour Forte virtual tasting. I'm here with Andrew Durbidge, our cellar master.
Good evening.
Welcome back. We're back in the whiskey office. Well, my whiskey office.
Yeah.
Not his whiskey office.
Well, it's always nice to come out of the cellar.
We keep him locked up.
It's nice when you open the door and I get out. It's light up here. It's so nice.
Yeah, it's humanity up here.
Yeah. Evening all, folks. Hope you are doing very well, and thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of tonight. It is the 5 Flavour Forte virtual tasting. Try saying that after 5 drams.
Rolls off the tongue.
We'll challenge it. We'll challenge you. The idea was behind tonight's tasting was that it's our monthly get-together. It's our virtual monthly get-together before next month's gathering, which is a much bigger occasion in some ways. But we're looking forward to tasting through 5 whiskies, sharing our experiences with you, reading your tasting notes, and taking a bit of a journey along the way. We'll be taking most of the comments tonight from our Facebook group. So if you're on the Facebook group, you can comment on there. Of course, you can follow along on page. You can also follow along on YouTube. We'll capture as many of the comments, questions as we go. There's 2 prizes for giveaway tonight. The first one is, of course, the best looking setup. So if you've got a cool setup that looks remarkably like this or something a little bit different, then you can share that photo on our Facebook group. You can share it on Instagram, Twitter, wherever you are. Just use the hashtag SMWS at home. That's SMWS ATHOME. And we'll capture it that way. And
well done to those who put in some early entries as well. We were just checking them out before we went live. There's a few there already, so well done.
Big shout out to Jeremy, to Darren, to Alex, who's all thrown in some early entries there. It looks very cool.
Indeed.
We're going to taste some whiskey without too much further ado. We've done this a few times. I think we know how to do this by now.
It's almost automatic.
You'd think so. You'd think so. As Andrew once taught me, never pour another man's dram. So please be my guest.
So, folks, we're starting to. You should have. Those who are playing along have got the kit. Will have the tasting that notes, and we're starting with the Ambassador of Lavender, which is in the sweet, fruity, and mellow profile. And if you've got the tasting mat that came with the kit as well, it's up in the top left if you've laid them out, in an ordered fashion for those who like to do so.
Just going to throw the bottle up nice and big there for a moment.
That was not an equitable pour, was it?
No, that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. Just a taste.
You go first next time.
Yeah, sure. You know I will. So that's the bottle there. That's 55.61. We've just
kind of cool that lavender's in the name, and it's actually the flavour profile that's got a purpley.
I didn't think of that.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. That's very cool.
I'm a floral kind of guy.
You've said before. Now you've spoken to me before about Distillery 55.
Indeed. Are we playing that game tonight?
We are playing.
We are okay, right? We're
going to show some photos of some of these distilleries if we get a chance, and we're going to talk about them as best we can. But this is Distillery 55 in the sweet, fruity, and mellow. This is kind of almost, I dare I say, archetypal of this make. In that, I often find the make of this distillery is quite fruity. There's almost like a lovely sweet fruit note, like mango and lavender almost, that I get off even some of the core range expressions.
Yes.
How does that come about? I know they run long ferments there, and that might probably have
absolutely. I think the other thing too is without getting too bogged down in some little specs that make this interesting. This is part of the John Dewar.
It is
group of distilleries
for about 25 years now.
Yeah. It was, I believe it was Diageo prior to that.
It was?
Well, actually, sorry. No, it was always John Dewar, and then they got siphoned off from Diageo to what we now know as Bacardi. Now, Dewar's, the blend, is the biggest selling blend in the USA. And if I'm going to draw on some very broad stereotypes and generalizations here, Americans have a sweet palate. And so the reason Dewar's is a very popular blend in the States is that it's a sweeter blend, and therefore the component whiskies that go into it are sweeter in general. And so when we look at the distilleries that they own in their group, There's obviously this one, Distillery 55.
Yep.
We have Craigellachie. We have Altamore. We have one more. What's their fourth one?
We've done a lot of research.
Aberfeldy.
Aberfeldy, yes.
They are all sweet whiskies. And so
I wouldn't go that far for Aberfeldy.
Oh, beautiful.
That's like
it's a Perthshire whiskey. It's honeyed.
I'm going to disagree.
Oh, well, he's allowed to disagree. It happens once a month. That was it. You chalked it up.
It is okay to be wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
I always find Aberfeldy to be really nutty, really like savoury and nutty.
Oh, honeyed.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, look, doesn't change.
That's okay.
Doesn't change what we're talking about. The point being, their 4 distilleries are run in certain ways to produce sweet, fruity, occasionally floral whiskey, and this one from number 55 fits that bill.
It does. So it's a single cask. It's 56.9%. And just a question coming in from Craig Morton, who chose the music? I do. I just put some music on. It's stuff that I'm allowed to use without getting copyright infringements. There you go. And Darren Howie says, evening, AD and Matt. And hello from the west coast of Tassie, says David and or Caroline Taylor. Good to see you both. And Rob asks, where's AD's lapel pin?
Well, it's on my other lapel.
I hope that's a simple enough answer for you.
Yeah. No, sorry, I left that lapel at home.
And hi from the SMWS Hobart Dram Club at Gold Bar.
Oh, they're with us. Okay.
Good to see you, Mark. Please send my best to Ian. Send my best to Jeremy. Everyone who's there. Great team at Gold Bar. And well, I know Jeremy works elsewhere, but that's the fact that I'm sure he's there. I think I just saw that Instagram post. That's a remarkable mozo.
You tasted that yet?
Not yet.
My goodness.
The word lavender is bang on, isn't it? In terms of the nose on that, isn't it?
Oh, it's for me, it's faint.
Is it suggestive?
Probably.
Yeah.
I think if it wasn't in the title, I wouldn't necessarily reach for it. Parma Violets, maybe.
Oh,
that
is delightful.
How tangy and fruity is that? That is fruit tingles. You remember those lollies when we used to be kids? Some of you might be eating them as adults, but fruit tingles, man, it's almost effervescent on the palate. It's bubbly and frothy, or is that beer you gave me before?
No, I think that's the frothy beer. I think it's the beer. You know what? I'd actually go so far to say it's got a very the palate. I just had it my first taste. The palate is very it's a very old school palate. Very much so. You know what I mean? Like it's like that. There's I always liken that kind of palate to like digestives, savory biscuit palate in some ways, which complements the sweetness.
Actually, can you imagine having this with the little oat cakes?
This would be an oat cake whiskey. Yeah.
Wouldn't it just?
Yeah. Wow.
Hey, Mark Westmoreland, morning from Scotland. Good of you to tune in from all the way over there. Cheers to you.
And cheers to the team at Wolfburn. Good to see you, Mark.
Great distillery, Wolfburn. Have you been there?
No, I've not been. We had Mark on this. We had Mark on the round table for he's from Wolfburn. Good to see Mark. Yeah, it's just I've not been to the distillery though.
I stuck my head in the door. Oh, I can't remember. It was 14 or 17 now. But fantastic little setup with everything on the one little building, and you can sort of see the whole process unfold before your eyes. It's a very good setup. Very cool, and making some pretty good whiskey too. Yeah, very impressive. Very impressive few releases I've tried so far. So that's Ambassador of Lavender. I hope you're all enjoying that one. Do you reckon I'm going to just add a little splash of water because I think it could take some. That's got a bit of heat, not in an unpleasant way. No. There's the distillery. It is actually quite an attractive distillery. The other thing that's worth saying about, with the exception of Aberfeldy, the other 3 distilleries in the group all share that exact same architectural style and feature. One of the great things about their still rooms, the still houses, is that they control the temperature with these doors that actually open up. So if they want to let some heat out, they just literally open up the door. So when you go past Craigellachie, you'll see the same thing. The stills actually look out to the main road, and same also at Altmore. And there's the rather large stills. Bring them up for you all to see. How did water? I didn't actually feel like adding water to that burner because it's mid-50s. On the nose, water actually brought out some caramel toffee chew sort of notes. Yep. Definitely on the caramel side. I wouldn't go as far as saying milk bottles or something like that. But, and a refill bourbon hogshead. That's not unexpected. # team refill.
Question from Liam Smee. What brings heat into a whiskey? Lots of spirit from early in the run, or that's a really good question. There's a few sort of it's a multi-varied reason.
Indeed, and you can have heat from the spirit, and if that combines with heat from the cask, well, double whammy, and they compound on one another as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it comes down to the cut of the spirit. It comes down to the integration of the spirit and the oak together. It comes down to the maturation policy. It comes down to where it matured, how long it matured, and different spirit. As I've touched on before, different spirit I find works at different ages, and some distilleries excel at young ages, some excel at old age, and in between. And some very, very lucky few distilleries I truly believe excel at all ages.
But it comes down to the volatiles as well, how you run your stills and what volatiles you capture and let through and which ones you try and avoid. And that comes down to how heavy the spirit is. Some of the distilleries looking for the lighter ethanols, and those that use purifiers and tall stills are going to have less of those volatiles. If you can see they can't see that picture at the moment, can they?
No, I can bring it back up.
These they'd almost fall into the category of what you call an onion still. And they do not, They do not trigger much in the way of reflux compared to some other still shapes. And so a lot of the volatiles just go straight up the neck into the line and come out of the spirit. So that would be one of the reasons why this, for me, has a little bit of heat. Gee, we're getting technical tonight.
Yeah, that is getting a bit technical.
Whiskey off the
we'll probably get less technical as we go along here. I mean,
fifth one,
I hope we do.
Well, the fifth one, we'll be talking about the chemistry of curries.
Well, yeah, we could, yeah. But I think it's very deservedly in the sweet, fruity, and mellow profile there.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
no, well categorized panel. Well done.
Was there a comment you wanted to throw up here? What was it? Did you want to catch your eye then? Just sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say evening to James Finnegan. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Craig Morton, good to see you, mate. Craig makes the comment that water took down the initial palate. It softened it. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not sure if that's a comment or a request, but Damien's just said the geekier the better.
Oh, I mean, that's the wonderful thing about the society. We have members of all walks in their whiskey journey, and some who are just discovering whiskey. I know there's a bunch of new members who got this pack, which is great. So they're probably discovering society whiskeys for the first time, and others who maybe they've been with the society for 15 or more years in Australia, which is great. That was lovely.
Jordan makes the comment, love that we're hearing some conflicting notes from you two. It seems that we're often told what we're supposed to be tasting rather than what to look for. Well, look, everyone's palate is your own. It's unique. And, don't ever let anyone tell you what you should be tasting. What you taste is what you taste. And surprise, surprise, Matt and I do have slightly different palates.
And I'm just enough of just that annoying person that can tell Andrew sometimes he's wrong. And it's okay. And he does the same to me. So.
Well, but the irony is how wrong you can be when you tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. It's wrongception. We must go deeper.
Yeah, no, I know this one's for you.
Yeah. Jordan, that's an excellent comment indeed. Fantastic. Well, shall we pour number 2?
Let's.
Yeah.
Oh. You go first.
Oh, no, allow me. Yeah.
I misread the size. It just felt. I thought it was. Yes, thank you.
After you.
Juicy oak and vanilla.
Now, this is definitely. This is one of my favourite distilleries. You know that.
I do know that.
I have a soft spot for it. I'd say there's a good.
I'd say you've got a hard spot for it too.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a certain you develop a relationship with certain distilleries and you enjoy some of the experimental, but sometimes in this case a full flavored interesting cask off this distillery, and we're moving to a first fill bourbon barrel.
Correct.
Barrel.
Yep.
It's a 12-year-old and it's 35.257. I'll bring up the so we can all see that. Just bring that up so we can all see what we're looking at here.
It's a slightly quieter nose off the back of the first one.
It's a Space Cider, perilously easy, lush and bountifully juicy and fruit forward, an embarrassingly enjoyable and bright example of this great distillery. They got that last part especially right.
Indeed.
Yeah. Wow.
It's great television, isn't it? Just watching two blokes sniff at their glass and not saying anything.
Well, that's actually, I think it's a good thing. You get to sort of take a moment and go, wow, what's going on in this glass?
It's more entertaining than the Masked Singer, I'll tell you that one.
I'm a whiskey drinker, get me out of here. Where can we go from here? I mean, what's next?
Actually, Oscar's just over there with a red rose for you. But,
all right. Oscar, good to see you, mate.
Craig, yes, I'll let that go, but that's a very good comment, Craig. Thank you.
I can't believe I put that up on screen. There you go.
You did,
yeah, there you go. So we, Due Circa Vanilla 35.257. What that tells you, for those who are perhaps a bit newer to the society, this is the 35th distillery that joined the society's numbering system, and this is the 257th cask in 38-ish years of the society running that we've bottled, that panel have bottled and have approved from panel. So there may have been a lot more casks offered up, but this is it's 257, which is a fairly good supply, and it's always I'll say consistently interesting. And that's the thing about single casks; they're all very different, but there's always something interesting in the glass for these for me.
Incredibly versatile distillery, this one too.
Versatile is a good word for it.
Its spirit works in so many different cask types and wood types. Yeah, they're peated spirit.
Yeah, I had the core range peated.
Yeah. Oh, man, it was stunning.
It was really good.
Yeah.
In fact, members in Melbourne may recall we used the core range peated as a welcome dram at the super normal lunch. There you go.
I actually tried some New Make Spirit, the peated
right.
It was good. It didn't need a day in wood. It was beautiful.
Not even a whiff of wood.
Not even a whiff of wood.
Yeah. I'll just if anyone's interested, I'll just show some just go through some of the photos that have been taken at the distillery just to give you a bit of context. The distillery.
Distillery?
Yeah, I'll just get rid of that banner for a second. So here we have this some of the stills. And
that's the old still house there from memory.
That is the old still house, that's correct, yeah. I just thought I'd show some of the photos of
that,
action.
Folks, is how you make porridge.
Yeah. Beer porridge going on in there. And there's the new stills.
Yep.
With the frilly plaques on the side there. They're quite massive. I mean, especially if you're used to looking at stills maybe locally, which are a bit easier to find than traveling to Scotland at the moment.
Well, the ones that they've put on the in the new still house in the northeast side are massive. They're huge. You just look at them and go, oh my goodness, especially compared to the small ones on the other side, which I find really interesting because it means that you are going to get a slightly different character out of those stills that you will to the others. And that's part of the versatility of what the distillery is trying to achieve, I guess. But, just as a passing comment, I now regret that we did 1 and 2 in this order.
Oh, we should have run them the other way.
Yeah, I think this would have been the perfect start, actually.
There's the previous master distiller, Graham, inspecting the cup, pretending that there was an active padlock on the spirit safe, and there he is sticking his nose straight into a cask, and they had just arrived that day. And there's you can see in the background there's some Burgundy, Chateau Yquem, Bordeaux casks. They've always been experimenting with different cask maturations, and we've seen a lot of that at the Society over the years. If some members might remember that era of sort of 35 to 165 to 175 sort of era of first fill Chenin Blancs and whatnot. And there is a nice sort of cut of the distillery right there. Actually quite a nice day. So I mean, I'll agree with Andrew. We could have done this around the other way.
This is a bit more subtle, softer. I don't want to say classically Speyside, I think, but it's
certainly grippier on the palate, and I appreciate that in some ways. The first fill cask has really imparted quite a lot of flavour onto the palate.
But you're right. Whereas our first one, I think, was very spirit driven. This one seems more oak driven.
Yeah.
It's not surprising. First fill versus refill.
Yeah. And that's the beauty I find, and we've touched on this before. The beauty between sort of first fill and refill, in that often refill seems less desirable. It's got a title like it's refill. Oh, it's not a first fill. It's like not getting virgin olive oil, extra virgin olive oil.
Yeah.
Oh, you're getting the fourth fill of olive oil. No, this is the beauty of that is that you get to, like you say, explore the spirit character of that distillery.
Yeah, and I there's some of the greatest whiskies I've ever had were refills, but they took the time to get there. Obviously,
they did. Yeah. Let's grab some of these comments here. A wee bit of menthol. That's a cool tasting note.
I'd agree with that. I reckon there's some menthol on the tail there. Certainly in the finish it comes through. Darren, I agree with you. It's a longish, dry finish. It is long. It's a finish that kicks around for a bit. It gets a little bit drying. As we said before, I think this is a bit more oak-driven than its predecessor. That was certainly spirit-driven. Alex,
even good old gin casks, just the once. Yes, the bottling that got in a bit of trouble, a bit of hot water, that one. 35.157 from memory. I might be getting that number wrong. It was somewhere around that series of it was a distillery 35 extra matured in a ex gin cask, which was a bit of trouble there. Even if
the gin cask was made from oak, wasn't it?
It was.
So what's the problem?
SWA didn't like it.
I should. Next time you're at my place, I'll show you my wonderful letters from the SWA to me.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
I took umbrage when they brought out the term blended malt back in the day, and was quite vocal in a few publications I wrote for at the time, and they let me know they were disappointed in my verbosity about the matter.
And you since got a T-shirt made that says "I love vatted malts." Is that what happened?
Pure, actually. Just bring back vatted malt.
No,
you heard it here first.
SWA, are you watching right now? Please.
Blended malt my ass. Anyway, yeah.
There it is. Rob Akers, #team refill. Absolutely.
AD rant. I'm keeping it in check, Rob. Don't you worry.
I'm kind of hoping he doesn't, to be honest. I mean, come on. It's Thursday night after all. Really appreciate you all joining us for a dram as well. This is our FFF, our 5 Flavour Forte virtual tasting for August, from our August outturn. I might take this opportunity now whilst we're in between drams to mention that tomorrow your September outturn will arrive because it's the week before outturn. So this is September outturn, the Gathering edition. It's really exciting. I won't give you too many sneak previews. You already know what the bolt of the month is. I announced that the other day, which is all very exciting, the 26.147. And it's exclusive to Australia, which is really exciting.
Did I overhear, well, not overhear, but I heard you on one of the streams saying you were going to be talking about that with a mutual friend of ours who was going to have a chat about the malt of the month coming up shortly.
About the first part, right? I'm going to talk about malt of the month, but I don't remember a mutual friend of ours talking about it.
You're going to get him in as a guest, a mutual friend of ours who's very familiar with the distillery. Did I not hear that on a live stream?
I think if I did, I retracted that comment immediately.
Okay.
I don't know.
He said he was from the UK, but he's out here permanently now. Were your words?
Oh no, that's for one of the events. Sorry. Yes.
Oh right. Okay.
Oh no, sorry. That
just happens to be the same distillery, though.
No. So we're doing a special event in on the 25th of September. It's an in-person event, and it's a Balblair focus night. So those who might remember, there we go. That's my distillery name of the night covered.
Does he friggin' know about Balblair?
Are we talking about the same person?
No, I guess I don't think we are.
Okay.
I don't think we are.
This is.
This is professional, isn't it? Can we cut and go back 5 minutes?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Bob. Go.
There's no 8-minute delay on here. There's no TV delay. We can't go back and say take out the swear words and take out whatever Andrew just said. No, the person I'm co-hosting with this is knows Balblair very well. Has worked in the UK. Has worked with a bunch of distilleries. Lives here now permanently. I won't mention him by name just yet because I need to actually ask him to do this event.
Not who I was thinking.
No. So this is for those who remember the Gathering last year, and it was a fantastic night exploring Bruichladdich as a distillery. This year we're going to be exploring Balblair. It's in the same room. It's in the Pioneers Lounge at the RAC. Very small, obviously.
Awesome room, though.
Awesome room.
Room.
Lovely room.
Okay.
The numbers are going to be a bit limited to cope with the restrictions around COVID, of course. So we'll announce what we can as we go. Just coming in for some of these. Get 18 for a Monday rant session. Darren Howie. Yep. You know what? I'm also throwing in my hat for the ring on that one. Andrew's going to be hosting live next Monday night for his AD rant. No, we'll see.
That's called a drant, isn't it?
A dram. Just edit it out. Yeah, Tim, that's a good one. There you go. Just we'll do it in post. Always do it in post. Okay.
We'll fix it in the mix.
Fix it in the mix.
Hey, this has become a different dram. That has really opened up.
I added a few drops of water as well.
In the 4 or 5 minutes that I just derailed us and went off on a stupid tangent, that has really opened up and become something a bit more appealing and attractive to me. Not that it was unattractive previously, but it's stepped up a notch.
I think when we first poured it was a bit tight. It was a bit grippy. Yeah, a bit grippy and tight. And I think once it's opened up, give it a bit of time in the glass, and it will I think it'll reward.
If we were scoring this,
and
you know roughly where my score and calibration scale is, I'd add a good 0.6, 0.7 to this now, just to where it's gone in the last few minutes.
I'd safely say that.
I score out of 10, by the way, in case you're wondering.
Yeah.
Points, you know, that's
0.6 above.
That's sort of going from a 7.3 to 7.9, that kind of.
Yeah. You know what? I'd go so far as to say it's an 8 for me.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, I know I've got a certain bias towards this distillery, but at the same time, I just like, I think it's a really honest whiskey. It's not hiding behind anything. There's no sort of obvious flaws. It's got a lovely character to it. It's oaky. It's delicious. And I think it's, I think that tasting note on the bottle of being an embarrassingly enjoyable whiskey. It's the kind of whiskey you could pour a nice biggie of and enjoy. Now, actually, there's something I forgot to mention. Working behind the scenes tonight, right now, along with us.
How silly of us.
Is the marvelous Susie Torres, who is the oracle behind the society here in Australia. She's not on screen with us, but she's behind the scenes, and she's releasing a small parcel of each of these casks on the website if you want to grab a bottle of this.
As we speak.
So they are scheduled to go live as we start talking about them. So I don't encourage you to jump out of this live stream. You've just opened a new tab. And if there's anything you want from this live stream that we're talking about, they are online. So those two are now live on the website. The next one might be live in just a few moments because we're going to start talking about it, I think.
Now, tell me, you added water.
I did.
Good idea, bad idea?
Good idea.
Good idea?
Good idea.
Right, I'll follow suit.
Adding water, it becomes floral. It becomes like even less grippy.
Don't forget, if you do add a few drops of water, make sure you really mix that in and give it a good stir before you go to it. Give it a chance to do its job.
Yeah.
Darren asked the question. Question RE the panel, is the approval for a whiskey done off a score minimum, or is it a yes or no type voting arrangement? When I certainly served on the UK panel, there was a minimum score we had to get to. I don't know if that's still the case or not.
It's still minimum score.
Yeah.
And it's been gradually moving up. So they've been moving the score, the minimum threshold up, so that the quality will continue to increase. And ever since our association, the panel's association with the SWRI, which is the Scotch Whisky Research Institute, it's like the peak scientific body for whiskey assessment. And the panel are closely linked to the SWRI, thanks to Dr. Andy Forrester on our team in the UK, who's an actual whiskey scientist. And they've been working on building up a protocol and process for increasing that minimum score and ensuring that no matter what you pick off an outturn, you don't have to be thinking, oh, is it a good one, or is it, oh, is that one any good? Focus on the flavor profile and the notes, and you'll be right as rain.
Now, I'm sure it's got a lot to do with how much was in my glass and how much water I added, but adding water to that made that hotter for me.
Hotter,
yeah, which happens occasionally.
It does happen. See, there we go. Another example of different palates.
Well, as I said, I think the chemistry was a bit different.
Chemistry was different, yeah.
By the time I added my water, I was down quite low. So
yeah.
Beautiful nose, though.
Beautiful nose.
Just keeps giving.
It's you could nose that all night.
You could, yeah. In actual fact. Well,
does anyone else do this?
Just catching up with my missus later.
One of my old tricks is if I've got, he likes to use it as aftershave. I like to do just the last couple of drops in a glass like that. Rub your hands together and jump in like that.
Yeah. No, I've just learned over the years that a little bit of space side works a treat. If I come home smelling of Ardbeg, doesn't work.
Well,
that was Distillery 33, by the way.
But we wouldn't know that.
We wouldn't know that.
We're speculating.
Right. So I think that was a cue to start the third one.
I mean, why not? We should pour the third one at least.
Okay.
I'll just bring it up what we're looking at here. We encourage you to move on now to 112.54. And on behalf of those who spot spelling and numerical mistakes in sometimes our menus, we try our hardest. In the menu, it does say 112.51. That is indeed incorrect. It is 112.54. Uncle Monty goes burgling. It's one of 264 bottles. It's a Highland whiskey, ex-bourbon hogshead, but then had an additional maturation in a first fill ex-red wine barrique. Now, one of the things I love this front tasting note. It says a muddled bike shop collides with a coastal tobacconist and they sit down for wine and salad. It's unbelievably weird whiskey, this one. And I think this is one of the hallmarks.
It's an unbelievably weird distillery. So
it's an unbelievably weird distillery. It is, yeah.
I don't know how much of you pay attention to colour. It's worth paying attention to colour with society bottlings because we don't add colour, which other bottlers do. But for those of you who care, that's probably the darkest whiskey of the night so far of the three we've had. It caught my eye as it came out of the bottle. And given that it's the oldest so far and also spent some time in a red wine barrique, you'd expect a little bit of colour.
Yeah, you would.
It wasn't a long finishing period, by the way. Just a bit over 12 months.
Yep. So 17-ish years in an ex-bourbon hogshead and then a first fill red wine barrique. A hogshead implies 245 litre, slightly bigger, slightly fatter than a barrel, and a barrique is a fancy French word for barrel. So that's your, and it's an ex-red wine barrel. So, but it's such a strange whiskey, and it's in its nose, and it's coastal tobacconist wine and salad. Those notes I can't get past, and I love that about it. It's online.
They're accurate.
They're accurate. They're very accurate. And they're, by the way, this one's online pretty much right now, I would think. Susie's on the case. What a comment. That's everything I want from a 112. Rob, I know you know your 112s and 135s and 122s and G9s and G15s very well.
That'd be an awesome pop song. That's everything I want from a 112. Rick Springfield would do an amazing
Rick Springfield.
song. Can you make Rick Springfield singing everything I want from a 112?
What was that song he did for the Sound City again? I can't remember. It was absurd. It was an absurd song.
I just remember the one with the telephone number in it.
Oh, right. I don't remember that one. We've reached our yearly quota of Rick Springfield references, by the way. So
is that
one,
yearly quota? Shame Murray Hassan's not here. He'd be able to help with this.
Yeah, he would be able to help with this.
If you are ever doing music trivia, sit on Murray's table, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Or even literary trivia.
Well, that goes without saying. We know that.
Yeah, we know that.
Interesting nose.
Does anyone get like a vinaigrette?
Good call. It is a vinaigrette, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something acidic about it.
Yeah.
Acidic and yet citrusy.
Yeah.
I suppose they call it citric acid.
Citric acid. Oh. It's not your usual. This is the thing I love about deep, rich, and dried fruits in this profile. There's that expectation, not everyone. There is that expectation, however, that deep, rich, and dried fruits means, well, it's just got to be a first fill sherry cask.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate
association
people make, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. It's an association that, I guess it's a sherry butt. It's like, this is a toasted first fill ex-red wine barrique, and it's a deep, rich, and dried fruits. And it's stunning, and I think it's very fitting of that profile, but unusual, though.
Dr. Akers is spot on. Rocket and balsamic. That's exactly what's going on.
Balsamic, yeah, wow.
Mr. Morton's correct also. That is drying on the finish and the palate. Wow.
Oh, wow. What a strange whiskey. That's got to be one of the, quite honestly, one of the strangest drops I've had this year.
It's up there.
There's so many things going on in there. There's the wine notes, the vinaigrette, the rocket, the inner bicycle tube. Like, do
you get that rubbery note?
Not the tube, the air out of it.
Oh, right, okay.
The car air.
You and I have different pastimes.
Some of us were soda bulbs, some of us were bike tires. Make sure you be packing the SMWS at home.
Do you know, I love a whiskey where you nose it and you get a whole stack of notes for nosing, and then you taste it, and when you go back, having had some on your palate, the nose goes in different directions. And that's exactly what this has done for me. I've had my sip. I've tasted now. Go back to the nose, and I'm just suddenly getting things that I didn't perceive previously. And oak being one of them. There's suddenly some real lovely oak and wood notes there.
Just a in between little plug here. Not that members really they know where to find it, but our new Monogram Society coppers are back in stock actually, and they're the first ones we've ever got. So they're with the monogram, and we've waited a while because glassware was out of stock for a while. It's been very popular, but Liam says Murray on every type of trivia. You want to know about 18th century French tapestry? I'll let you read the rest of that comment, but
can't say French tapestries come up much at my pub trivia.
Or as a tasting note in whiskey.
No. Now, German knitting, on the other hand, lots of questions about that, but French tapestry, no.
Parvin asks, is it strange that it tastes like pale ale to me? It's an interesting tasting note. Some whiskies do get a bit of a beery note.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You've got me thinking now. I'm not sure I'm getting a pale ale note.
It's all very subjective, of course. But
yeah.
Yes, those tiny repair kits. Liam, that's kind of what I mean. You know, when you have to repair a tire, it's not the rubber I'm smelling. It's the sort of the smell of the air because you had to redo the tire, and I don't know. It's a very niche tasting note, I realise, but I do get a little bit of that. John Jarvis, hope you're well, mate. I realise that you're probably sitting at Gold Bar at the moment, or if you, at least you very much should be with the team there.
You know, having just added a splash of water, I'm really getting some of the characteristics that go hand in hand with the red wine cask.
Yeah.
In fact, at the risk of saying something incredibly controversial, there are elements I'm getting on this that I also get on Hellier's Road's Pinot.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Offering.
That wasn't nearly as controversial as I was expecting it.
Well, I've just taken a wonderful Scotch whiskey and compared it to Hellier's Road.
That's no, just saying. It could have been a lot worse.
Got to save it from a Monday rant, don't I?
Yeah. How long is this rant going to go for? Darren says, we love those deep, rich and dried fruit stuff that has the kinks. Outstanding. Yeah, it's a strange whiskey. It's not your typical deep, rich and dried fruits where you say Christmas cake and rich pudding.
It's very atypical.
It is atypical, yeah.
Yeah. No, the regular descriptors that you'd reach for in this flavour profile probably don't apply.
There's a very small handful of those online. Actually, more of that one than the others, but there's a few of those online. So if you do want to grab one of those, they're up online now.
Now, we had a chat beforehand and we didn't have time to Google and look it up, but the name of this whiskey is Uncle Monty Goes Burgling, which we suspected was some strange UK reference, but we don't know who Uncle Monty was. So
it's like a UK television thing or something. If anyone wants to look that up for us and post it in the comments, we'd really appreciate that.
Yes, appease our curiosity.
I don't know what it means.
I mean, I'm a big Monty Python fan, and I know where they came up with the name for Monty Python for the show, but it ain't Uncle Monty, so I'm guessing it's some other thing.
Maybe there is a reference to Monty Python, though.
I don't believe so. But
it is that sort of wine salad coastal tobacconist note I love, though. And I'll just show that bottle once more so we can see the what's going on here, and some of the photos from that distillery. It looks like a lot of hardworking distilleries. AKA doesn't look like Strathisla. No, I mean that in a nice way. I mean Strathisla is beautiful, but this is very much like looks like and they've got their own little sort of cooperage on site that toasts and does a few things here.
You're actually looking at the dechar rechar process in that photo.
There you are. Very very much with the exception of how the barrels roll onto the rack, it's very much still a hand done process. And there's one of their warehouses. Bits and bobs from around that distillery. That looks like the 135 stills, if I'm not mistaken, that one there.
Yes. Well, oddly enough,
ish. Well, sort of.
They're the more regular conventional stills in the still house.
Yes,
those two.
The pot stills,
as opposed to the pot stills with rectifying heads. I think they refer to those ones as.
And
then the stills that shall not be named.
Yeah. It's very
now
industrial.
the SWA came down on them. They're not allowed to call the spirit from that still malt whiskey anymore, are they? Is that
from the
stainless steel column?
No, they're not. No, that's a grain whiskey. Yeah,
tragedy, great tragedy.
And there's the Danger Explosive, and then from the outside, it's not a hugely attractive distillery, but like I said, it's a hard worker.
Well, it ain't on the tourist trail.
No,
it doesn't need to look pretty.
And I take it from me, staying in the local town is unadventurous.
Try staying in Wick when you visit Old Colton. No, actually, I'll take it back. Don't try it. Take my tip. Don't.
What was that thing I saw once that said, if you ever think your life sucks, just remember there's people who live in Kent. So, no offense to anyone from Kent, by the way. So yeah, there we go.
A couple of quotes coming in. Not quotes. Comments about Uncle Monty. Could be a reference to the 1987 British cult film with Nail and I. And Liam says that there's an Uncle Monty in the series of unfortunate events book. So there you
go. Very interesting. Yeah, there's a couple of there, isn't there?
Yeah, what's interesting is there are some names that the society gives its bottles that are very reflective of the spirit. You know, they describe it beautifully.
Yeah,
How you equate Uncle Monty goes burgling to the characteristics of this, I have no flipping clue. But that's why we're a quirky society.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just meant to be fun, I think. We'll have to ask maybe the panel what Uncle Monty is, but I doubt we'll find out. Yeah, where's Joe Phillips should definitely know who Uncle Monty is, and developing a slight cereal note.
Thank you. Who said that, Robert? It's changing in the glass. That is real. Yeah. Now you'd expect that. It's an 18-year-old whiskey, yes.
It is 18 years old.
Older whiskies take more time to open up and develop, and you've probably heard us say this a few times, but some of these society whiskies are actually 2 drams for the price of 1. You get that first dram when you first pour it, and you get a completely different dram 5-10 minutes later. This one's taken a while to get there, but it has definitely opened up and gone in new directions. And I'm getting things on the palate that just weren't there earlier.
Yeah.
Some of those volatiles have burnt off. It's had a chance to relax, take in some oxygen, and come, I don't want to say come to life, but it's certainly changed and is a very different dram. And I think it's more open. I think it's a bit more accessible.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. It's like, as you said, whiskey evolves over time in the glass, and it evolves over time in a bottle as well. But it's just that it's that's something that I really appreciate about the society is that they take, like, it's that time that it takes is you don't see that in a lot of, like, dare I say, 40% commercially available whiskies, and that's kind of the exciting part of this. It's got that evolution, and it's always interesting in the glass rather than just that's. I explained it as a finish the other day about the finish on a cheap whiskey. It just goes
right.
Yeah. Taste it, it's gone. That was the whole experience. Rather than there's no finish, there's no evolution. In regards to naming, does that also apply to tasting notes? I.e., the UK branch is giving tasting notes based on UK only products. Is there some degree of translation that needs to be done?
Well, that's what led to the development of the Australian local tasting panel and the local comments we used to write, because back in the day we got a bit, if I'm being entirely honest, we got a bit ticked off with so many UK tasting notes referring to products that we weren't familiar with, particularly confectionery. Used to be a lot of references in the early UK tasting notes when we started the Australian branch that made references to things that we as Aussies just didn't understand. And that was one of the catalysts for actually coming up with our own Australian tasting notes that we used to write.
Good question, Liam. And Mark. Uncle Monty was a computer game in the UK. He was a burglar. That's probably the right answer then. If it's Uncle Monty goes burgling.
Well, that makes so much sense because this just smells like a computer game, doesn't it?
Hold on a second. Hold on. You joke, but do you know that smell of? Did you ever have to blow Nest cartridges? You know when they had to blow a cartridge to put it?
Oh, sorry.
1984.
My brain just went in a very rude direction. What was that again?
Like Nintendo cartridges. Does anyone remember having to blow the dust out of?
Come on. I'm 10 years older than you. I grew up with Atari.
Well, okay. Well, Nintendo cartridges.
Atari, you just stuck it in. You didn't have to blow it.
Oh, yes, you did.
Oh.
On the Nintendo cartridges, they often got dusty, and you have to go and it would clear out all the dust. But as kids, you didn't realize you were probably blowing spit into the cartridge and it was making it even worse. But that was what you did. You'd go to get rid of the dust out of the cartridges because they got dusty. And so maybe where was I going with that? Doesn't matter. Maybe that's the tasting note. Maybe it's the smell of the cartridge, the Atari cartridge or the Nintendo cartridge. I don't know either. Or if you're younger than me, maybe the GameCube or the Dreamcast or the PlayStation discs. Who knows?
What a wonderful leap of faith.
You know what? No one owned a Dreamcast, so it doesn't matter. It was a complete Sega failure.
Sega, crikey.
There you go.
Yeah, right. I still remember my little Donkey Kong.
Yes.
Gee, you turned up, thought you were a rich kid in the playground when you turned up with one of those dual screen ones. There was Oil Panic, Donkey Kong, Greenhouse, and Hospital, I think. That's the white one.
He's showing his age. He's actually quite young. If you can remember, if he's talking about those ones. Atari cartridge dust. How's that for a tasting note?
Well, okay.
There you go. There you go.
Our cartridges didn't gather dust. We would change them all the time.
James, you're right. Mario Kart 64 was all rainbow and wiggly sometimes if you didn't blow the cartridge. I knew it. Yes. The 64 cartridges were notorious as well as the NES.
Someone's going to make a comment about a Commodore 64 cassette tape in a moment, and then we're all going to go.
My reel-to-reel Commodore. I feel you, MB. The blow has to be now replaced with the turn it off and turn it on again. Yes, that's
correct. Or the Microsoft solution. Yes.
Sega Master System. Well, that was a successful system. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. And don't forget Master System 2.
Joel, I don't know how that came across on the microphone, but I definitely said Donkey Kong, right? I'm not sure what you're referencing there.
Did you say Kong? Yeah.
I said Donkey Kong.
As opposed to what? I don't want
well,
to know. It doesn't matter.
I did not say rooster.
Punch cards of a particular smell too.
Gee, we're really analysing.
But the
funny thing, okay, sorry,
that's exciting.
Let's get serious for a moment.
Yeah, exactly.
If it is to do with a computer game, what is it on that nose that inspired that name? Because I'm not getting any of those sort of.
I don't know, like plastic cartridge dust or something.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
Did you find it a chemical plasticky coating?
I didn't personally, but maybe I'm not on the panel. So.
No, that's it. That was a bit of fun.
Yeah, that was good.
We aim to entertain.
What do you reckon?
Very happy to go down to the land of Campbelltown if you are.
Yeah, I reckon we are. So this is Campfire Treats on the Beach. Unlike the first three, which are up on the website now for members, if you want to grab a bottle, there's a small supply of each available. This one has already been an outturn. This was in the August outturn along with this pack. And is long gone, I'm afraid.
There was a rush on it, wasn't there?
There was. I mean, it's 93.
I was about to say, it's understandable.
It's a Campbelltown malt.
Grab them while you can.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll just show the bottle for those looking at home. That's what we're looking at there. 93.131, one of 182. It says on the front, Campfire Treats on the Beach, a doused peat fire, wood char and tard, followed by deviled whitebait, diluted maple baked apples, finishing with smoky sweet crab meat chowder.
Deviled whitebait, that's interesting.
Deviled whitebait, yeah. And it's a full maturation in a first fill ex-bourbon barrel, Campbelltown 14-year-old, in our oily and coastal profile.
Oh, my goodness. How good is that?
That is so good. And I'll just show a few sneaky photos of this of the distillery. Actually, I snuck a photo in at the Black Sheep pub because, as Andrew and I both know, if you're in Campbelltown, you've got to get the it was the haggis nachos.
Stop. And if we haven't had dinner yet, that's really unfair.
They give you a look at the pub if you order the full size rather than the half. And they're like, you're not ordering the full, you're not going to finish it. And you're like, I'm going to finish it. And then that's the distillery. I wouldn't know what name of the distillery 93 is, but it's a spectacular distillery. It's quite beautiful. It's wonderful.
Oh, you've been there since the paint job.
Yeah, that's post paint job. There you go.
They were red when I was last there.
That must looks fairly fresh paint as well.
Yeah.
And there's look at that beautiful mash. Ooh.
Open ton mash tun. Not many of those left in Scotland.
That's right. There you go. You can just we're not lifting the lid or anything there. It's just right there, and then the wash and spirit still.
Now look at those big juicy onion stills, bugger all chance for reflux. Everything just goes straight up. So it results in a really oily, juicy, thick, meaty spirit.
Yeah, it's just remarkable. I have a huge soft spot for Distillery 93. They produce some remarkable whiskies.
Excuse me.
And then there was that was the open day. There you go, the Campbelltown Malts Festival day with some live music and some goodies going around. It was look at the weather. Look at that weather.
Not photoshopped.
No Photoshop. I did not add a blue sky to that. I promise you, the weather was stunning that day and it was warm. Well, warm, you know. But there we go. That was just to show you where we're up to with this, and we're just nosing this now. First fill. Ex-bourbon barrel.
I don't know if you noticed, but I picked this up and had a nose, and I couldn't help myself. I actually went in with the two hands.
Okay.
That's a little sign that I'm actually really enjoying my whiskey. when I clasp it with both hands, this is stunning. Jeremy makes the point. I'm calling Allen's lollies served on a stainless steel tray. That is a great tasting note.
That's an awesome tasting note, Jeremy. That's awesome. Wow.
There is so much going on there on that nose. It's sweet, it's maritime, lovely. It's coastal, it's malty. There's a little bit of oak. There's a tiny bit of, I'm going to say orange citrus. I was toying between orange and lemon, but I'm going to say orange.
I can't get past the white bait.
Yeah, that's that coastal maritime note. Yeah.
But it's a very specific coastal note.
Robert's asking which grade of stainless steel. I'm getting T316. That's just me. So I'm a structural engineer, mate. If you ask those questions, you're going to get answers.
Tune in for a 9 p.m. session of Ask an Engineer. We'll be right back. This is
904L. No way, Jordan. It's 316. Come on.
316. Come on.
Oh. And there's a confectionery note underneath that. If you dive in underneath and go that next tier down on the nose,
there is a sweetness to it, isn't it?
Oh wow!
If there's one thing I just want to make reference to with the 93s, we see sort of like these 14, 15-year-old ones that are these teenage ones that we see that are unbelievably complex and they're lovely and they're coastal.
I'm convinced that's where this distillery peaks.
Okay.
I'm convinced.
Yeah.
Between 12 and 15 is the sweet spot for this distillery.
Well, I was going to say we've had also a spate of 7 and 8-year-old casks, and they're definitely in the peated category.
Yes.
And they're always like they're brutish, and they're sort of like washed black rock kind of smell, and it's like a really sort of brutal beach, a winter beach kind of smell.
Again, what you want from a Campbelltown whiskey.
Yeah. And they're very different. What I'm saying is they're very, very different. They're almost two different distilleries.
I'm in no rush to taste this.
I'm enjoying the nose of that.
So I'm sure that makes for boring viewing, but I could nose this all night. That is just
I'm getting just the tiniest bit of like germaline just on the top there.
Yeah.
I'll have a taste as well. 59.8%.
Oh goodness!
I think the Campfire treats on the beach it implies sort of like it's some sweet meats on the beach. Some of the notes that we've put in the tasting notes there.
Wow!
Oh, it lingers. Doesn't
that is the longest. I was just about to say that is the longest finish I've had for a long time.
I want to sip of my beer, but I feel like it'll destroy that.
Don't.
Oh,
wow! That is still going. And it's just actually it's finally descended. Wow,
that's lovely.
Yeah, I tell you what, Liam, I'm finding it hard to disagree with your comment there. Might be my favourite 93 for a while.
Yeah, it is a lovely 93. I'm going to go as far to be obscure enough to say that's up there with Drambleton Lock for me. 93.99, one of my favourite 93s we had in recent time.
That was a great name, by the way.
Yeah, that was a great name, yeah.
Uncle Monty can get stuff.
Uncle Monty and your Atari, you can bugger off. You know what? Drambleton Lock was a good name. Oh. Yeah, Joel, sorry, Joel. That's exactly what Andrew was saying. It's one of those whiskeys you just want to keep nosing. I'm not adding any water to mine, but
I guarantee this will take water.
Yeah, okay.
You can pick that straight away. Not saying it needs it, but it'll do something.
Going back to that steel comment, Caleb says personally 316 for sure.
Well, thank you, Caleb. You're right.
Salted beef from Dean Jackson.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that like a beef jerky?
There's a savoury note.
Yeah, savoury
there's a real meaty character to it.
That's great. All right, I'll add a bit of water as well.
Okay, so for me, water's suddenly brought out a bit more of that coastal note. I'm now getting that sea breeze. It's like walking along the beach and having the wind hit you in the face, and maybe there's the scent of drying seaweed down on the shore coming up as well. Craig, good call, mate. Smoked meat with roast garlic. Definitely get the roast garlic on that.
Roast garlic, that's a good call. That's a very good call.
And again, there's that toffee note that comes out with water.
Absolutely.
So that's the second whiskey tonight, where it's been a first fill bourbon barrel, and it's taken water to bring out the vanilla toffee character of it.
Oh, that's great. Oh,
it's like,
I love that whiskey.
It's like candied ginger note going on there as well. Liam asks, honest question, kind of front of the mind for me at the moment. Is this a good example of spirit sulfur driving those meat notes?
Ooh, great question.
Oh, it's a really good question. It's not a distillery that's sort of renowned or known for having sulfury new make. They use shell and tube condensers. They don't use worm tubs, so you're not expecting spirit sulfur as a result. Where's that meatiness coming from in this one? To be honest with you, I just think it's that beautiful, dirty, grungy Campbelltown character. Not necessarily a function of how they run their condensers or the condenser type.
There's a certain tasting note to a lot of Campbelltown whiskies for me. That is quite personal to me, because when I was 18, one of my first jobs just out of high school was at a petrol station, and there's the one thing that you never wanted to go near was the diesel pump, because it was just this grubby pump that all the truckies used, and there was a certain diesel fume though that came off that pump, and it was like diesel fumes that came off that pump, and the smell of that pump itself. And for me, I often get that note in a lot of Campbelltown whiskies, and I get it a little bit in this one. And it's almost like a throwback to when I was 18 and working there, and it was just this smell of that diesel fume in that pump, which I love. It's like like I say, I've said before, I think whiskey is a bit of a time machine. It can take you to sort of a moment, a time and place, a flavour from yesteryear, from something you enjoyed a long time ago, from an experience you had, from a time and place. And for me, that's what one of them is. And I often get that industrial funk out of Campbelltown whiskies, and I get a little bit of in this one.
It's funny. Jeremy asked the question, why can't 93 do anything wrong? That's actually a really interesting observation, because if your only exposure to this distillery is through society bottlings, that's a fair call. If you've had some of the commercial bottlings that were put out in the 2000s, you would not be making that comment.
With the fluorescent tubes.
This was a fairly unloved distillery. It did not get a lot of love from its owners. It was contributing to what I'll loosely say was some fairly cheap blends that were part of the Bullock Blade from memory, Sandy Bullock. Was not renowned as a single malt. It was really just producing stuff that they put into their own in-house blends. And when the single malts came out, particularly the stuff in the 90s and the 2000s, not remarkable whiskey that you'd cross the street for. And so it's fascinating that the society for the last, I'd say, 9 or 10 years has got its hands on some sterling casks. And if you remember the society 8-9 years ago, when we had a massive run of casks from this distillery that was sherried, the sherry casks that came out for this were unbelievable at the time. And I know there are members who joined the society purely off the back of some of those sherried 93s. So very interesting, as I say, for a distillery that didn't get a lot of love and was overlooked, and to be fair, made some pretty average whiskey, at least on the commercial front. You're right. The single casks that the Society's bottle have just been stellar.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. In fact, if I recall, about 2015, one of the first events I hosted outside of Sydney was a tasting in Perth, and I featured 93.69 props for a hammer film, and it was a 14-year-old sherried 93. I almost said the name of the distillery just then. And then it was a 14-year-old sherried whiskey, and it was unbelievable. It was lovely. It was I think it was like the October or November outturn that year that it featured.
So 2015, that would have been on the tail end of that run we had.
Yeah. And there was, I think it was a 93.65 just before, which I remember seeing tasting. But there's a whole bunch of, and we've seen, so that therefore in the last 5 years we've seen about 50 different 50-ish.
I'm going to dip my lid to Ian Reid. That is the best comment to describe Campbelltown whiskies, I reckon. That is sensational. If we were at a live tasting, you've just won yourself a prize, I'd come around and give you a bottle or something, because that is awesome. Can we put that up on the screen?
Is that one? Someone forgot to remove the trail from these prawns before throwing them on the fire. That's a very good comment. That's a very good comment.
Love it.
That's a cool tasting note. Long may I continue. I agree. Alex, good to see you, mate. Thank you so much. That's true. Big shout out to Alex, by the way. You've had a tough year being the new Victorian Tas State Ambassador in a year where there's
He's had a brilliant year. He's had to do anything. There's no
that's tough. That's tough. I would call that tough. You'd probably got look, you can call it what you like.
I'm teasing Morsey, please, don't worry.
Honest question, being new to the Society, how long on average does the Society hold onto barrels? Are they purchased rather young and held at the vaults, or but with some age and then finished at the vaults?
All of the above, mate.
Yeah.
All of the above. Yeah.
There's a lot more casks a lot more spirit being bought at the moment, a lot more sort of young spirit being bought and then being matured in the UK. And then like Andrew said, all of the above. It's a bit of column A, a bit of column B. But it's the one thing that you can always rely on with the panel is that it's bottled when it's ready, not when it reaches a certain age.
Yeah, very true.
We've seen some whiskies recently that were 29 years of age. Like that would probably be more attractive with a 30 on the label. It's likewise with 11-year-old whiskey would look more attractive as a 12-year-old, things like that. But it'd be over the hill at 12.
Well, the classic was that distillery 35 we had a while ago that was bottled as a 47-year-old. And everyone knows, God, if we could just have eked it out for another 3 years, it would have been an amazing 50-year-old.
Yeah, you'd have a 50-year-old whiskey.
But it was right at 47.
It was also bang on 40.0%. So therefore, it's bottled when it's ready, not when it reaches a certain age. And it's bottled when the panel deems it fit for release.
Nermal reckons he's added some water and it's going a bit gin-like. Did I add water? I can't remember.
I added a bit of water, and I've just finished mine. Look,
I'll pay that. I reckon there's a bit of a juniper note on that.
Juniper note, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, mate.
Hope you're all Mel. Good to see you. John says, I didn't know Alex was. He is. There's lots of people watching. Lots of people who got back tonight, so thank you. Lucky bastard. Yeah, indeed. And James says, what does the Society do with the casks that are just no good? Great expectations, but the spirit just keeps disappointing.
That's not a problem for us, honestly. The people at Shippers Regal are always looking for casks, so we just...
There it is. There's the one I'll have to explain later.
That's not true. No, it's not true. Cheap joke. Cheap joke.
No, there it is. No, it's true. No, it's that's up there with Caramel Factory. Well done.
Yeah.
No, but that's the.
I'm not going to live that down, am
I? Don't worry. I've had to live down much worse. This is if a cask doesn't pass panel because it's too young, well, then you just let it sit a bit longer. If it doesn't pass panel because it's just not going to get any better, then they are often sold to blenders, or it's often used in other experimentations and things.
There are brokers and people who will happily take them off our hands. So and to be really honest with you, this is one of the great things about the Society. We have no obligation to bottle it. We have a cask. We don't like it, we will pass it on. Now, that's different to some independent bottlers who get stuck with their stuff and bottle it nonetheless. That's not what we're about.
That's true.
I couldn't possibly comment, Robert, but I've seen your thing there.
I've got one here just for Andrew. Actually, here you go. There, you can use that. So
I'm not in the mood to vomit, but thank you kindly.
You're very welcome. Caleb says, mentioning the risk of hitting 40, is there an optional precedent for artificially heating the whiskey to reduce the water content, increase ABV? No.
I've probably shared this story before, but I was personally privy to seeing 3 casks of 38-year-old Glenfarclas tipped down the drain because they'd gone the wrong side of 40%. They were literally tipped down the drain. There was no thought of batting them in with something of higher spirit to bring it back. It was just no good.
Not even a liqueur.
Honestly, can you imagine the knots going under my stomach watching that go down the drain?
Is there some way to connect your mouth to the other side of that drain? I mean, that's all I can think of. It's like
the plumber in me was thinking hard. I'll tell
you. Where does that pipe go? We're all thinking it, but he said it. There you go. Yeah, Liam, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Well. Yeah, that's a remarkable whiskey. That's really fun. That's a fun whiskey.
And it's amazing the respect and status that we have for Campbelltown whiskies, thinking that there's actually only 3 of them. There's only 3 distilleries plugging away, and boy, don't they hold up that region well.
Dare I'd say actually 2.5, but I'm not going to go down that path.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, I say 2.5 because one of them only produces a few months a year.
Well, they both do. They do one at one end. And
yeah,
one at the other.
Exactly. Well, okay. Yeah, exactly.
So, in that case, there'd be 2.
Yeah, there's 2. No, there's 3. There's 3. Yeah, they're very small. Even Glen.
The other one, Glen. Glen.
Even Distillery 93 is quite a small distillery. It's a very small output in terms of like it is by Scotland standards. It's a small distillery. It'd be a large distillery if it was here, but it would be it's a small distillery by their standards.
Yeah, definitely.
It's worth remembering that these are not all mega distilleries that pump out millions of litres a year. Some of them do as little as 300,000-400,000 litres a year, which is quite small. So, and there's even one distillery now that I think does 20,000 litres a year, which is not even on the map.
It's Avondeg, isn't it?
Avondeg, yes.
Isle of Lewis.
Or Stratheden, or there's a few. There's quite a few little ones now, and you probably won't even see them commonly available as a single malt either. So, grabbing some of these comments coming in. Oh, okay. I'll check that out, Craig. We're not going to bring that up on the screen just now, but we will. Glen 93, thanks, Mal. You saved me just in time there. And Glen Bagpipe says, Dr. Akers, one of Andrew's favourite distilleries, Glen Bagpipe, and Glen Wonka.
For the last friggin' time, Glen Bagpipe represents a number of distilleries, not one. Everyone seems to think I'm referring to one distillery. It's not the case.
No. What about Glen Wonka then?
That was your term, wasn't it?
I like
I've never used Glen Wonka.
I've used Glen Wonka. There you go. Brain fart. Okay. There are 2 Glens in Campbellton. You are correct. There are. Yes, there are indeed. Thanks, James.
There'll be room for a Glen Campbell joke there, but we'll let it slip.
Yeah, well, no Glen Campbells.
Nice rhinestones, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Shall we?
We shall.
After you.
Is it my turn?
Yes. So we've had 4 very interesting malts from Scotland, and our last one is a premium livery release distillery 134 from India. Now, this is probably, in my opinion, one of the most interesting whiskies I think I've tasted in a long time now. This is probably the only one in the lineup that I have already tasted. Happiness is a warm goer. Both a reference to where the whiskey is from, as it even says it in the region column there, but also a nice little Beatles White Album reference right there as well, as in Happiness is a warm gun. Another harmonious marriage of hot climate maturation and peat, sublimely textured, simmering, palpably oily peat smoke and abundant spice. The first thing I got when I nosed this earlier was that I got a real like maple bacon pancake. Like maple syrup on bacon, like charry bacon pancakes. I've not been to this distillery in Goa, but it is their single malt is relatively young on market. If I'm Being honest, it's the first time we ever saw it.
That's a function of climate.
A function of climate. Sorry, I mean the distillery's only been producing single malts, marketing single malts since about 2012. So, and you attended one of their launches here in Sydney, and I remember you writing on Whiskey and Wisdom that it was what some of the more remarkable spirit you had.
Yes,
you were blown away by.
I was so impressed, so impressed. And we actually met I can't mention his name. The distillery is named after him, so I mentioned him. I mentioned the distillery name. That's a tough gig.
That's a tough gig.
But as he said that night, his name is on the bottle. It's his name. It's got to be good because it's his name on it. And so they strive to make really, really good spirit.
We'll just call him PJ, right?
PJ, good one. PJ. Yeah.
No, but it was it's. I know there's that line that often people say that 5 years of monsoonally aged whiskey like this equates to whatever 18, 20 years of Scotch whiskey equivalent in terms of maturation. I don't know what truth there is in that.
I don't subscribe to that, but I do know that if you leave it for too long, it evaporates and it's gone.
Yeah.
So there are commercial realities. I don't think you can say, and this is the same for Australian distilleries. I don't think you can say so many years maturation in Australia is the same as so many years in Scotland.
No,
what we do know is that if you leave it for too long in Australia, A, it evaporates, B, it takes on too much oak and becomes a problem. So each country has to deal with its climate.
Yeah. No, very cool. So it's a second fill ex-bourbon barrel in this case. Full maturation 5 years in India. One of the questions I'm often asked by members is, was this sort of distilled in India but matured in Scotland or something? No, this was distilled and matured in India, and it was the same with all the malts going forward from countries where we bought it from.
Officer's choice, SMWS. Yeah, good call.
Very different nose. Smells like the kitchen when you start to cook a soup. Putting all the veggies in.
Well, it's okay. I like that call, Joel, because for me, I'm getting, on the nose at least, a lot of earthy peat and not a lot of smoke. It's a peat nose, not a smoke nose. And we won't get into tonight, but peat and smoke are two different things. Do not ever assume they're one and the same.
You can read more about that on the SMWS site, difference between peat and smoke. That's on the site.
Yes.
I still can't get past that maple bacon, and like
but it's not just when you say maple. Are you thinking maple syrup or maple wood?
No, I'm thinking maple syrup.
Because I agree, but there's also maple wood in it.
Yeah, right. That bacon note, bacon for breakfast note. This is almost a breakfast peated dram. Not that we encourage drinking in the morning. Drink responsibly, folks, please. Officer's choice. Sorry, I just saw that then.
Woohoo!
Vegemite on buttered toast, says Dean Jackson.
Promite for me, not Vegemite.
Promite. I'm more of a Marmite guy. There you go.
I'm a Vegemite guy, but for me, I'm getting Promite. We had that discussion last live stream together, I'm sure.
We need to come up with more material, clearly.
Oh, you tasted it yet?
I just am.
It is that's a big hit of peat.
It's another one of those whiskies where the nose has changed after I've tasted it.
Yeah.
It's chewy and unctuous.
Massively chewy. It is such a tactile experience that is something for your tongue to really get around.
These are already up on the website. This was also in the August outturn. So there's about 10 or so left, or ish, I don't know. But if you want to grab one of those.
Okay. For everyone at home, throw in some comments. If this was served to you blind, if you had no idea where it came from, and you nosed and tasted it now, and I want you to shut your eyes, have a sip, and just ponder that finish, that fingerprint, that footprint that's left behind on your palate, tell me you wouldn't describe that as a particular island distillery.
How do I know you're going there? Yeah.
You could serve this blind to some friends and absolutely fool them. And I reckon there's a particular distillery I've got in mind. That
what number would that distillery possibly be?
Well, it would start with digits, obviously.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So
I'm leaving it there.
Sure. But it is exciting to see some of these newer codes, and even like a premium offering like this Roasted sunflower seeds from Reza there. Awesome comment. Fresh leather coated with some promite.
Promite, yay!
Definitely a breakfast drams.
I'm liking Jeremy. He's agreeing with me tonight.
Promite. Dean Jackson, promite. So much leather. Carl says, agreed. I think you get the additive in interactive maturation, but it feels like it does take time for subtractive maturation to really take hold and do its thing.
And Caleb, that's a fantastic thing, and that's all right if you distill your spirit to allow for that. If you know that you're going to be maturing in a climate and in a cask type where you don't have that time for the subtractive character, then distill a spirit that is matched for that. My biggest problem at the moment is a number of New World distilleries that don't account for that. And they distill their spirit to have a certain character and then stick it in a cask in an environment that is not sympathetic to that. And we're seeing a few distilleries and releases locally that are really struggling with that as a result.
Have you, I remember you might know more about this. There's quite a distinct difference between how they distill their peat runs and their non-peated runs at this distillery. I don't know if you remember anything about that.
Certainly they take a low, the cut, they go back down.
Yeah, the cuts are very different.
They run it differently. It's a slower distillation as well. Yep. They do all those things to get the character of the spirit. They're clever distillers. They really are.
Very clever stuff. Question from Dean Jackson. How would you define the difference between promite and Vegemite?
Vegemite for me is a bit more malty. Promite has a slightly more metallic, sharper note.
It's been so long since I've had promite. I wouldn't.
To be honest, it's a long time since I did the 2AB, and I don't know what I'm doing this Sunday now over breakfast. But
Craig says smoked salmon on wheat cakes.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah. Every one of these 134s has been worth a go. Interesting and different. Liam, you've been a member long enough to remember the 134.1 that we had and 134.3, if I recall, and they were very different whiskies. This is the first peated 134 I think we've ever seen, though, which is very exciting.
If you can see Jeremy Young's comment, he's mentioned the distillery that I was thinking of earlier.
Oh, right. Okay. We're getting there. Dick Smith's Aussie Mite. Ooh. Now it's a different one entirely. Still a hint of sweet berry fruit like raspberry reduction. And Ian Reid said like spilling Lafroig in a new car.
For me, the finish was Lafroig.
Spilling Lafroig in a new car. That's one of my favourite tasting notes of the night.
That's trying to work out if that's actually a bad thing or not.
Well, you wouldn't want to spill Lafroig in your new car.
I'm not so sure. I don't like the new car smell, but I love the smell of spilt Lafroig.
I like new car smell.
Oh, I do.
Reminds me of driving a new car. Great insight. Thanks to that, AD. Definitely hadn't considered the influence of spirit character.
Can you bring up James's comment, James Cadden?
Yeah. And where does Mighty Might fall into this, John? Where does Mighty
Might? Crikey.
There was a Vegemite also they released with cheese, wasn't there?
Oh God, that's not good.
The Vegemite cheese spreadable.
There were abominations.
Only whiskey people would AB compare different brands of breakfast spreads.
Now, mate, if you were tuned in half an hour ago, there were people arguing about different grades of stainless steel, and I've licked 316 and 304 to be able to come up with tasting notes. So talking about Vegemite is not an issue.
Andrew Durbridge licks stainless steel. Look, you said it.
I did. I've licked chimneys as well.
It's.
I've gone up to the inside of a chimney and licked it for the purpose of knowing what that is like for a tasting note. That's on the record. That's known.
No, that's known. That's a known. James, though, I'm just going to leave you a comment there for a second because it's true. It's that whole sort of exploring flavors comes from exploring flavors. And from doing A/B tests and being like, is that a Vegemite, a Promite, a Marmite, a Mighty Mite, whatever it is.
Can I give you that fantastic insight, James? Back when we used to have our local tasting panel, there'd be three of us at the panel. We'd be nosing and tasting, and someone would say, "Oh, Arnott's biscuits," and that was never good enough. It was never good enough to say Arnott's biscuits. You had to zero in and say exactly what it was. Was it a Kingston? Was it milk arrowroot? Was it Scotch finger? As someone, if you're going to put yourself in a position where you are critically analysing whiskey and writing tasting notes, you have to be able to draw on those elements and be able to A/B different things. So it's actually a very important thing to expand your tasting vocabulary and horizon by trying so many different things so you can draw upon them.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Butter sauteed crab.
Jeez, I'm getting hungry now.
Yeah.
Geez, have you added water?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either.
I
don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to. No. I don't want to. That's really good.
If you added water at home and you've got an opinion, let us know.
What bread are you spreading Vegemite marmite on? That's a question for Dean Jackson and John Jarvis. There you go. Oh, brioche. Vegemite on brioche.
That's an arrogant bread, isn't it?
It just sounds arrogant. It just sounds arrogant. It's a very French-sounding bread.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Since joining society, I'm better at identifying flavors in whiskey, but also at identifying flavors in everything I eat. Oh,
well, it's so true.
Thank you, Liam.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, because you're engaging that part of your brain that thinks about those things.
Mm.
And Liam, I can't remember. I'm sorry, mate. I can't remember if you've been to any of our dinners or not, but if you've been to any of the society whiskey dinners, you'll know that's a key part of the conversation on the night is breaking apart flavors and describing things.
If this whiskey could be a scenario, it would be getting home from an operation at the hospital, silk robe, and then burning it. If you've had that experience, please pipe up. Yeah, I'm really enjoying that.
But you'd agree with me, with your eyes closed,
yeah,
you could be sucked in if someone told you this came from Ireland.
I'm going absolutely with Lafroig spilt into a new car.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Maturation is everything. Age is just a number.
There's more sweetness and fruit coming out with time on this.
I've not added water.
I haven't either, but just that sweetness and fruit in particular, tropical fruits. Pawpaw, a little bit of mango.
I get the pawpaw, yeah.
Yeah.
I might take this moment now whilst we're on the fifth and final dram to thank you all for being a part of tonight. It's been fantastic. Like I said, outturn is tomorrow. You'll see the events in there. If you want to know right now, if you're in Canberra, keep the 24th of September aside. Hobart, keep the 2nd of October aside. Sydney, keep the 25th. Brisbane, keep the 25th. And nationally, there's a special event with Whiskey and Almond for the launch of their Pirates Breakfast Juice, which is on the 23rd, Wednesday night. That's on the Whiskey and Almond site, that one. Otherwise, all the rest of the events will be on our site, along with Outturn on Friday week. Goodies.
That was a good lineup.
Yeah, it was a good lineup. It was good fun.
Very, very diverse in every sense of the word. Diverse in flavour profile, in distilleries, in geography. I don't know if you had a map of Scotland and were plotting the points as we went, but it was a reasonably good spread. And bit of diversity in age as well.
And now say the name of the tasting 3 times in a row. There you go.
FFS.
FFS. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of the stream tonight. Really appreciate it. It's been fantastic. And definitely Silky Petered Hospital. Ooh, you're going to some nice hospitals.
And
it's been great to have everyone in tonight's tasting. It's been really nice to have you all involved, asking great questions, making great comments. The flavours tonight have been, as Andrew said, hugely diverse and just really interesting. The first 3 whiskies are up on the website if there's any left. And the 4th one, unfortunately, has long gone. It was an outturn. Just means jump on them when they come out. Those 93s are absolutely fantastic. And the 134 is available on the website as well at the moment. I think we'll call it a night.
It was a fun night.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, mate, for all your work and for putting this together. And thank you for tuning in at home. And thank you for watching, those of you who are going to tune in tomorrow or watch this at some other time.
Yeah, indeed. And tomorrow night is as our blind tasting with Derek Barrell, so that won't be on here, but we'll catch up with you shortly after. Thanks, everyone, so much. And
much obliged. And thank you for Susie for pulling the levers in the background as well.
Big shout out to Susie and Danelle in the office for putting all this together and wrapping all these boxes up.
Oh, gosh, yeah. That's an exercise.
It's huge. And if there are any mistakes, you can blame me. So thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Cheers.
Good night.
Que desejo sick, sick too. Don't stop.